nuestro país. Es mejor cuando protegemos el derecho a migrar y el derecho a asilo. ¿Sí, sí o sí no? Sí, sí. I know from this being my first term in Congress that the Republican Party is really built to cut taxes for their billionaire buddies and to have give outs to their corporate contributors. And they try to cover up their failures for this country by scapegoating immigrants and by trying to point to the border and to immigrants as the source of all of our problems. But we know that isn't true, and we shouldn't fall into that trap. And I think it's unfortunate that President Biden is responding to those politics through this executive order. Instead of falling into the Republican attack on immigrants instead of falling into Republican light policies, we should have our own pro-immigrant, pro-worker, pro-American, pro-civil rights vision for immigration in this country. We could do that by providing protections for the immigrant families you already have here. We can do that by having more legal and safe avenues for migration for the folks that want to come here. And we can do that by changing the counterproductive U.S. policies that starve people and contribute to poverty and violence in the Western Hemisphere, so that folks can stay at home if they want to stay at home and then migrate in a legal, safe, and orderly way. That is our vision. And that's the vision that we're asking President Biden to enact instead of these Republican-light policies. And a real leader on these issues has been the leader from Congress, from California. I think she might be wearing multiple hats. And one of her hats is as chairwoman of the Hispanic Caucus, my friend and a real leader on these issues, Congresswoman Nanette Marayan.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm here to stand with our allies and our friends and partners in Gaza and our immigrants. Thank you to our immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants, built on immigrants. And what we should be doing instead is talking about the contributions our immigrants make and how we can make sure that we support them and that we don't close the door to asylum to immigrants in this country. And we're here today to urge the president to work towards a fair and balanced immigration system. There is no doubt that the president has the authority, and he can and he should execute that authority to provide positive steps, pathways to citizenship, helping protections for immigrants that have been here in this country for a long time. And that has been the topics of conversations that we've had. But what we see today is a disappointment. And from what we know, it's not going to make the situation at the border materially better. And rather than bring more clarity, today's action is going to make the asylum process more arbitrary. And we all know the system is broken. We know Republicans have no interest in doing anything. We know because either they're not willing to vote for it or because we've had conversations. When you talk to Republicans and say, what do you want for Dreamers? They don't even want to talk about it. And this is supposed to be bipartisan legislation. So we know they have no interest. It's not a time for us to turn to Trump-era policies. It's not time to go and use the tools that Trump used. That doesn't make this better or okay. On the contrary, we should not be looking to those policies. It didn't work under the prior administration, and it's not going to work today under this administration. And so I'm here to stand with our allies. Limiting access to asylum is the wrong way to go. And we know, of course, that in this country, people have right to asylum. And it really shouldn't be by the stroke of a pen that a president can say that they're going to put an end to the asylum system. And today's executive action effectively does that and restricts that so much that it's a step in the wrong direction. And so with that, I would want to thank you all for standing strong and speaking out because we got to continue to stand with our immigrant community, and we will do that. Thank you.
Escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha.
Gracias. And next we have the chairwoman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, as well as the top Democrat on the Immigration Subcommittee, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Kassar, and thank you so much to all of the advocates who are here today. As the top member, the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee, I released a statement today saying I am profoundly disappointed in this executive order. It is a step in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, as a longtime immigrant rights activist who has spent now 20 years on the streets fighting for humane immigration reform, we are making the same mistake again that Democrats continually make when we try to out-Republican the Republicans. It does not work. It does not work. It does not solve the situation at the border. It dramatically curtails the ability for people to seek asylum at the border, which is what our domestic laws and our international treaty obligations require. And by shutting down the border and capping asylum, it means that we have people, desperate people, seeking asylum who should be able to apply, and yet they will not be able to because of this. But in addition, it does nothing to ease the pressures at the southern border, because the reasons that people are coming are both because of what they are experiencing and because we have a broken immigration system that does not allow legal pathways for people to come here to work, to join their families. So we know that the border is not just a line in the sand somewhere. It is directly related to how effective our legal immigration system works. And if we want to address the situation at the border, which we all want to do, we all want an orderly process for people to come, seek asylum, and to seek entry into this country, then we have to reform our immigration system, make it humane, allow for long-term undocumented immigrants who have been in this country working and contributing, as well as those who are coming here to have the ability to apply. Now, finally, I will just say that there are things that the president can do that actually would make an enormous difference in the lives of people who are right here in this country. He should provide parole in place for the spouses of American citizens. That is 1.1 million people. And he should provide more TPS designations for so many countries. So we will be continuing to push. The one silver lining I would say to all of you, because I know this is very tough, I know this is a very tough day for all of us, is that he did say that there will be positive actions to make the system more humane and fair, and we will be looking and pushing for those actions in the coming weeks. Thank you all so much for everything that you are doing. We will continue to fight until we get humane reform that gives the dignity and respect to immigrants that have been holding up this country for so long. And we are not stopping. We are right there with you. Thank you, everybody.
Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
And next, my hermana en la lucha from the city of Chicago, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez.
Sí se puede. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Delia Ramírez y soy la congresista del Distrito 3 en el estado de Illinois. Y hoy estoy con ustedes con una persona muy especial, que es la mujer que me trajo a este país, embarazada de mí, mi mamá que está aquí, Elvira Ramírez. Y la razón por qué hago lo que hago, una mujer inmigrante que ha esforzado mucho para que sus hijos puedan salir adelante, y la razón por qué yo hoy soy congresista en este país. Miren, estamos enfrentándonos en este momento en un desplazamiento global de inmigrantes. Una cantidad sin precedente de personas que están obligados a abandonar sus hogares. No solamente en Venezuela, no solamente en Ecuador, sino que en China, en Haití, en todo el mundo. Y es porque estoy tan decepcionada de la orden ejecutiva legalmente. Esta orden ejecutiva es literalmente el otro lado, ápice, el contrario de lo que estamos abogando aquí. Y sabemos que restringiendo la habilidad de poder buscar asilo en este país es en contra de los valores que decimos que tenemos nosotros como demócratas. En este momento donde tanta joven, tanto niño, tanta persona está buscando cómo escapar, tanta violencia en su país, pobreza, restringiendo su habilidad de entrar a este país, es literalmente mandándolos a morir en la frontera de México. Y eso para mí es un crimen de nosotros en este momento. Nosotros sabemos que las detenciones y las deportaciones no funcionan. Lo que necesitamos es un sistema donde se le hace más fácil o habilidad para que la gente pueda venir aquí legalmente. Nadie quiere venir por una jungla en Panamá o en Colombia, arriesgar toda su vida para poder llegar aquí. Imagínate todo lo que esta gente ha pasado y que digamos, si llegaron a 2,501, que le vamos a decir, te vamos a deportar inmediatamente y no vamos a dejarte entrar. Eso no es humano. Así que quiero decirles a ustedes que nuestros colegas aquí van a seguir peleando con ustedes diariamente, hasta que el presidente tenga una orden ejecutiva que en verdad responde a la necesidad del inmigrante, que da permisos de trabajos y mantiene a las familias juntas. El presidente tiene una oportunidad en este momento. Él puede ser el presidente que une y mantiene las familias juntas, o puede ser el presidente dividor, que divide a familias. Él tiene una oportunidad en este momento para decir, yo voy a hacer lo que el otro no hace. Yo voy a vivir con los valores de la humanidad de la gente. Yo voy a ser el presidente que sin reforma migratoria por este Congreso, yo por autoridad ejecutiva voy a darle la habilidad que tengan permisos de trabajo. Nosotros no pararemos de trabajar hasta que esos permisos de trabajo se logren y hasta que nosotros finalmente podamos decir, sí se pudo. Sí se pudo. Así que in summary, look, of course I'm disappointed. I'm here with my mother, the woman that crossed the border with me, pregnant with me, so that her daughter today can be a congressperson fighting for immigration reform. And I will say this to you. Deterrence has never, ever worked. People will continue to seek asylum because they are escaping desperate situations in their home countries. Leaving them stuck on the Mexican border is not going to change the circumstance that they need to seek asylum. We have to understand that to get to the root cause of migration, we have to understand what's happening in these countries and partner with those communities to make sure that people have what they need. This is exactly why I will continue to fight with all of you, organizing together so that we actually have executive orders that honors people's humanity, executive orders that keeps families together, that extends parole in place for the 1.2 million households that make up 10.6 million U.S. citizens in those homes. That is what we're going to continue to fight for. And we will not stop fighting for it until it becomes true, because we know that when we organize, we will win. Thank you.
One more time for Delia Ramirez. And as the Congresswoman pointed out, before we blame asylum seekers for escaping poverty and violence, we should first ask ourselves if we should change U.S. policies that are contributing to that poverty and instability all over the world. And someone we're going to be hearing from before we hear from the next two Congresswomen is Werline Joseph, the co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance.
Greetings. I bring greetings to you today directly from the U.S.-Mexico border. I saw with my eyes the realities, the families that we are closing our doors on. Today and every day, I bring their voices here in D.C. so that they can know their lives matter. The executive order that we had today is heartbroken. It is painful. It will cause people dying every single day. We say, not in our names. That's right. And we continue to stand on behalf of those families, of those children, little boys and little girls we see begging, crying, asking, pleading for safety and protection. As I stand before you, I am trembling that our government continues to use the same barbaric policies. We dealt 1 year ago to this last month, Title 42. We dealt with MPP. We dealt with metering. And unfortunately, our president today has coupled all of those barbaric, painful policies into one. And we continue to push back. We continue to say no, because we believe together we are stronger. We believe from the border to Capitol Hill, from Capitol Hill to the White House, we can and must do and be better. We are looking into the future, and this cannot be the way moving forward. This cannot be the new reality. This cannot be the new protocols. This cannot be the new politics that prioritize politics over lives. We say we will continue to push through. We will continue to move forward. We will continue to address the root causes of migration in countries such as Haiti, who is currently in dire conditions. Yet, today, the Haitians, the Cubans, the Venezuelans, the Nicaraguans, the people from Afghanistan, from China, who are currently at the border, will not be able to have access to life-saving protection. So we say, yes, we can. Si se puede. And you know we have to speak Haitian Creole. We nous capable. So si se puede.
Si se puede.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We nous capable.
We nous capable.
Thank you. Next, we have the Deputy Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and such a leader, not just in world affairs, but also in asylum and refugee policy, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I share your heartbreak and betrayal. I love this country, as many immigrants who do get the opportunity to come to this country do. The United States has been a beacon of hope for those fleeing persecution, violence, and oppression. Today's executive order undermines that legacy. Not only is this order a betrayal of the principle upon which this nation was built, it flies in the face of basic morality. Seeking asylum is a fundamental human right enshrined both in American and international law. If the Biden administration is serious about addressing the border crisis, the way to do that is to create more and quicker legal pathways, not to put asylum laws to the side. We have to remember that the victims of this policy will be the innocent. I want to center what it truly means for people fleeing unthinkable situations. I am today thinking about the mothers fleeing her home in Central America who has 2 children escaping brutal violence. I'm thinking about the father who made the atrocious journey from Cameroon because his only choice was to face the constant threats of death and make the journey. I'm thinking about the teenager whose community has been destroyed by climate crisis, who knows her only chance of a better life will be found in the United States. These stories are not unique. It is echoed by the countless others who look to America as a place of refuge. As a refugee myself to this country, I know what this executive order means for so many innocent people hoping for a better life. It was the border of Kenya that allowed my family to seek refuge and seek asylum. We are here in the United States should be better, and we are denying people the chance to live free of violence and persecution. We are closing the doors on children who have witnessed atrocities no child should ever see. We are closing the doors on families who have lost everything. Today's executive order does not reflect the America I know, the America I love. A country built by immigrants, a country that stands up for the oppressed. We have a moral obligation to establish a just immigration system that welcomes and protects human beings, a system that upholds our values and offers a lifeline to those who are in desperate need. We cannot allow fear and xenophobia to dictate our policies, which is why I hope that the Biden administration will change course. We must stand up for the voiceless, the vulnerable, the innocent victims caught in this cruel executive order. Thank you all so much for being here, for sharing your stories. It doesn't end here. We will continue to fight until our country holds up its legacy and lives up to its promise. Thank you.
Estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with movement family, justice seekers. Grateful to Congressman Kazar for convening this and bringing us all together during this deeply painful and consequential inflection point. Thank you all for being here today, although I wish you didn't have to be. As I've said so many times before, I look forward to a day where people do not have to relive or weaponize their trauma in order to compel action from their government. It is a shame that we have to gather here today, once again, to put the administration on notice and remind them who it is that they are accountable to. With all due respect, Mr. President, we should not be unearthing policies of the last administration. A diverse, multi-generational, and multicultural coalition who organized and mobilized their communities to reject the cruelty that defined the prior administration and deliver us the White House demands that we do better. It is incumbent upon all of us that we not only advance policies that affirm immigrants' rights as human rights, that they are, but also push back against any harmful proposals that deny migrant families the compassion, dignity, and fairness they deserve. That is why we're here today, to reject this anti-asylum executive action. For too long, we have let Republicans demonize our immigrant neighbors and set the frame for our public discourse. They have used anti-immigrant rhetoric and a scarcity mindset to push deeply harmful xenophobic policies that treat people as pawns and deny them their basic dignity and humanity. And that is why it is extremely disappointing that this White House would choose to double down on the previous administration's harmful and flawed immigration policies that would gut the asylum process, deny immigrants their due process, and put vulnerable families back in harm's way, especially Black, brown, and indigenous migrants. It's long past time we build an immigration system that centers compassion, dignity, and fairness, not cruelty, callousness, and criminalization. And before they try to tell us that we're not being realistic, because they like to tell us that, or that we simply don't have the resources to meet the needs of our new arrivals, I'll remind them that there is no deficit of resource in this country. There is only a deficit of empathy, a deficit of prioritization. We can invest the resources necessary to address the asylum backlog and help states like Massachusetts support our new arrivals. Si se puede. We can expand legal pathways and reform our foreign policy that has been rooted in colonialism and destabilized countries like Haiti and those in Central America. Si se puede. Yes, we can. And we can and we must take a comprehensive, holistic, and effective approach to immigration reform. For our dreamers, for our TPS holders, for our asylum seekers, for our unaccompanied minors, and for every person that comes to the United States in hopes of contributing to our nation and building a future for themselves and our loved ones. Listen, I know Congress's failure to act limits the tools of the executive branch. That is clear. But this action falls short of our goal of a just and fair immigration policy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Asylum is a human right, and immigrants are people, not pawns. And a wise friend recently reminded me that immigrants are neither villains or victims. They are people with talents, gifts, hopes, and dreams, with homes and families. People who go to school to learn, who work to provide. They make our communities stronger, our economy more vibrant, and they deserve to live with dignity. We must lead with compassion, not cruelty. I urge the White House to immediately reverse course and work with us to build a just immigration system that affirms asylum as a human right and respects the dignity and humanity of all people.
Let's hear it one more time for Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. And next, we have so much press here that the microphones block me reading who's coming up next. Next, we have Eleanor Acer, Director of Refugee Protection at Human Rights First. Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. You are all awesome. And thank you so much to the members of Congress who are here today, including Representative Kassar, Chairs Jayapal and Barragan. This new policy will endanger the lives of people fleeing violence, persecution, and repression. It tramples on U.S. refugee law and U.S. treaty commitments that the United States has pledged to abide by. It will actually undermine U.S. interests and U.S. leadership by discouraging other countries from hosting large numbers of refugees, and it subverts the international refugee protection regime that encourages other countries to also welcome refugees. The policy won't actually fix or secure the border. It will instead add to disorder and dysfunction. Human Rights First, where I work, along with many of the organizations here and groups along the border, have been monitoring and documenting the impact of policies like this that ban and block and turn away people seeking asylum. We did this under the Trump administration, and unfortunately we're doing this now under the Biden administration. Through this research, we've seen again and again how these policies actually work in reality. They actually cause more disorder and dysfunction and horrible damage to human lives, leading to torture, kidnappings, and all kinds of dreadful persecution. Families, children, and adults who are seeking the protection of this country suffer as a result. These kinds of policies also fuel and bolster false, anti-immigrant, fear-mongering narratives. Playing politics with the lives of people seeking asylum is just wrong. The best path forward is always one that upholds values and human rights. Instead of more bans and bars that turn away people seeking refuge, Human Rights First continues, as do many of our partners, to urge the Biden administration and Congress to adopt humane and equitable solutions that strengthen the asylum system and manage migration effectively. Key steps including to properly fund asylum adjudications and the immigration courts, to expand access to ports of entry so that people actually have equitable and prompt access to seek asylum at ports of entry, which they do not have now, and to continue to strengthen parole initiatives, refugee resettlement, and refugee protection in the region. The answer are humane solutions, not anti-immigrant policies. Thank you all for being here today.
You just heard it. The president's executive order today, unfortunately, will not address disorder and dysfunction at the border, because what the president's order does is reduces legal options for migration. We should be expanding those legal options if we want a safer border. The president's order will not reduce the amount of migration to this country, because migration doesn't begin at the border. It begins in other countries. And so if we want fewer people to be forced to migrate, maybe we should start by ending the embargo against our Cuban neighbors. Maybe we should start by changing the policies that starve our brothers and sisters in Venezuela. Maybe we should start by limiting the way that we spread violence in Latin America. Maybe we should start by pulling countries out of the crushing debt that we put them under. And so to hear more about what could actually work and the long-standing civil rights policy we have here in this country, we have Deidre Schieffeling from the American Civil Liberties Union. So let's hear from our friends at the ACLU.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Deirdre Schieffeling. I'm the Chief Political and Advocacy Officer at the ACLU, and I want to thank our incredible congressional champions for standing with us today, Chairwoman Barragan, Chairwoman Jayapal, and Congressman Kassar for their unwavering commitment to asylum. Our nation's strength is in its proud history of welcoming immigrants, including people fleeing persecution and seeking safety in the United States. And the actions announced today by the administration will put thousands of lives at risk. These actions echo the Trump administration's previous asylum ban, which the ACLU and partners successfully challenged and got struck down. I am here today to say that the ACLU, along with our partners at the National Immigrant Justice Center and the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, will go to court to block this illegal and harmful ban on asylum. It was illegal when Trump did it, and it is no less illegal today. For decades, we have recognized that we can't expect people fleeing for their lives to get in line, to wait in danger, and hope that the CBP app works and an appointment opens up before it's too late. You can't schedule asylum. This is a matter of life and death. And that's why we need basic protections that allow people to access asylum. Today's actions are a dangerous reversal of our legal and moral commitments. ACLU's polling in critical battleground districts very recently, just the last few weeks, shows that most Americans want a humane and balanced approach to immigration, one that manages the border and also provides a pathway to citizenship for dreamers and other longtime residents. That's what most Americans want. So instead of doubling down on harsh border measures that would effectively shut down the border, the administration can and should continue rebuilding our immigration system by delivering solutions that are popular with key voters, including Black and Latin voters and young voters. The ACLU stands ready to work with our partners on the Hill, in the White House, and in communities around the United States to champion real protections for our immigrant neighbors. But today's set of executive actions are not solutions. And we are here to say, we'll see you in court.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. We appreciate you and the ACLU so much. And next we have Gustavo Torres, the Executive Director here at CASA.
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
No se escucha, Casa. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, all of you. Thank you very much. My name is Gustavo Torres, and I am the Executive Director of CASA. CASA is a national organization fighting for power and providing services to Latino, Black, Indigenous, and other working class communities. Estoy aquí representando a CASA, una organización que construye poder y provee servicios a nuestros miembros, que son negros, latinos, indígenas y trabajadores. ¿Se puede?
Sí, se puede.
And we are here because we want to send a message to President Biden. President Biden, cruelty is not the solution. Le queremos mandar un mensaje al presidente. Presidente Biden, la crueldad no es la solución. We have better way. Tenemos otra forma distinta de hacerlo. And we know, because we believe that it's so important that we provide opportunities to people who have been here for a long, long time. People who can qualify for TPS and other potential administrative relief. Para estas personas que están aquí desde hace muchísimo tiempo y califican para el TPS o también califican para cualquier otra reforma administrativa. So, Mr. President, we believe that it's so important that you make a decision to be with the Latino and immigrant community, no against us. Nosotros creemos, señor presidente, que es el momento que usted esté con nosotros, no en contra de nosotros. Nosotros creemos que trabajando juntos podemos construir un mejor país. We believe that working together we can build a better country for all of us, para todos nosotros. So I just want to tell you that it's very, very important, Mr. President, that we send a very clear message to our community. The message of dignity, the message of respect, the message of we are with you. Es muy importante que le enviemos este mensaje, señor presidente. Un mensaje de dignidad, de respeto. Un mensaje que se le diga, estoy con ustedes. So we are demanding right now that you, Mr. President, stop to attacking our community. Queremos demandar, señor presidente, que deje de atacar a nuestra comunidad. You can provide TPS now for more than 1.5 million people to qualify, who have been here for more than 10 years. Usted le puede proveer TPS a estas familias que están aquí por más de 10 años. ¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gustavo. And next, we have Kika Matos, the Executive Director of the National Immigration Law Center.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
We are here to deliver a clear and public message to the Biden administration and all of those who are playing politics with people's lives. And it is this. We will not stand by as our asylum laws are gutted and our communities thrown under the bus. We will not turn our back on asylum seekers. We will not be silent. Vamos a hacer ruido, ¿verdad? We will fight back with everything we have. When immigrants are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
Oh my God, that was lame. Let's try again. When immigrants are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do?
Stand up, fight back.
Let's say this loudly so that the White House can hear us. President Biden's embrace of failed Republican policies is a terrible mistake, and it hurts all of us. History will not look back kindly upon his choice to slam the door shut on families seeking safety. While this may be useful politics in an election year, it does nothing to fix our hopelessly broken immigration system. The executive order also fails our legal obligations under domestic and international law, not to mention our moral obligations to welcome those fleeing from government persecution, violence, or death. Here is what we all know. We know that immigrants help build this nation and move our country forward. Immigrants are our neighbors, our co-workers, and our family members. And when we welcome immigrants, it makes this country stronger. So here's what I say to President Biden and to those playing politics with the lives of asylum seekers. Why don't you pursue the policies that you know Americans want and which are practical solutions? Timely and fair processing of asylum applications, expand legal pathways, support cities that welcome our immigrants. These are the solutions that Americans want. Finally, let us remind President Biden that he made a public promise to all of us that he would uphold our asylum laws and build the 21st century immigration system that centers dignity and humanity. The executive order is not that. The executive order is an epic fail. ¿Se puede?
Sí se puede.
Vamos a demandarlo, ¿verdad?
Sí se puede.
Thank you.
Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
Next, we'll hear from Amy Fisher at Amnesty International.
Thank you, Congressman Kassar, and for all of the other members of Congress who have come out today and our friends and allies. Again, I'm Amy Fisher. I'm the Director of Refugee and Migrant Rights at Amnesty International USA. And Amnesty is deeply concerned and outraged by President Biden's latest action that would effectively shut down the U.S.-Mexico border and strip asylum seekers of long-time protections. This is the most restrictive border policy that Biden has put into place to date. Children and families who fled their homes in search of safety will now be stranded and placed into danger. Today's announcement is unfortunately too timely, as it falls on the 85th anniversary of when the German transatlantic liner, the St. Louis, arrived at Miami full of Jewish people fleeing the Holocaust, seeking safety in the United States, only to be denied because of the racial quota laws of the 1920s. The ship was turned back to Europe, and over half of the Jews eventually succumbed to the Holocaust. With this executive order, the United States is returning to those days and implementing a new quota system at our border aimed at keeping out Black, brown, and indigenous people seeking safety. Instead of showing global leadership on refugee protection, the United States is now adopting the first quota on asylum that our world has seen. Let me be clear. President Biden's action today sets a dangerous international precedent as a first of its kind numerical cap on asylum. This executive action will not fix the problems plaguing our border, address the needs of cities faced with high numbers of new arrivals, stop people from fleeing for their lives. It will only cause more chaos and cruelty, and inevitably more torture, violence, and deaths of women, men, and children seeking safety in the United States. Today's executive action dismantles human rights for people seeking asylum and is plainly unlawful under international and refugee law. This is an utterly shameful move for a country that once helped draft the Refugee Convention. We need real solutions that respect human rights, address root causes of forced migration, allow for safe and orderly pathways to the United States, and meets the needs of communities at the border and the interior of the United States. Once again, I am grateful to Congressman Kassar and for all of you being here today. We call upon the Biden administration to immediately reverse course, uphold the right to seek asylum, and invest in solutions that protect human rights and welcome people with dignity. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Alan Morris of the National LGBTQ Task Force.
Hello and happy Pride. Even though we're supposed to be celebrating something happy, the task force is very sad in this moment. As stated, my name is Alan Morris. I am the Director of Policy for the National LGBTQ Task Force. Today, our collective message to President Biden is clear. Shutting down the border will cause irreparable harm. President Biden, we see you and hear you loud and clear in signing this executive order. It hurts, not just for us standing in this triangle, but for the very people who we help daily. Asylum seekers are brave in sharing their stories. LGBTQ asylum seekers have to fight twice as hard for their lives, and we know what harm this executive order will bring. We implore the president to reconsider this decision. Humanize us, see us, value us, all of us, especially the voices of the asylum seekers at the border who are simply seeking safety after suffering unimaginable persecution. When extremist news publications praise such actions, we know something is very wrong. I wonder what the true motivation of this executive order is. And as we mobilize the vote to save our democracy, this will not help our chances. The reality of this is this executive order penalizes asylum seekers. How different is this from the previous president, who attempted and failed to build an actual wall? This is not what our country needs, not now or ever. Shutting down the border only serves extremists with a taste for manufactured fear. The National LGBTQ Task Force and our colleagues here and the many not here demand that President Biden reconsider this executive order. Our priority should be to expand and restore access to asylum, not create more cruel obstacles. Again, humanize us, see us, value us, all of us. Thank you.
Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
And last but not least, we'll hear from Alina Roche from Welcome with Dignity.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Gracias, Representante Casar. Thank you, Representative Casar. Thank you all for being here. This president today has essentially closed down the border to people seeking asylum. People like me, people like my family, people who we love. This is unacceptable. This is heartbreaking. Is this the nation that we are meant to be? Is this the nation with the Statue of Liberty at our harbor welcoming? There is something to be said about history repeating itself. And we should look hard at that. We need solutions that are humane, that are dignified, that strengthen and build and modernize our asylum system, not ones that continue to deter and punish people for seeking a better life, for seeking safety, for seeking a dream. The president can correct course. The president can stand by his promise that he made to the Latino community, to the immigrant communities, to all of us. He should and he must. Following the footsteps of the previous administration is unacceptable. It is dangerous. It is deadly. We must do better. We must do better for the next generation of migrants, immigrants, people seeking safety, for the next generation of my parents, for the next generation of Representative Ramirez. We must do better. I know we can. I am grateful for this opportunity. It is not lost on me that if my family were to come today, they would not be able to seek asylum. They might be faced with the difficult option of sending me across by myself. We must do better, and we can.
Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
El pueblo
unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Thanks everybody for coming together. Yeah. We could also break out for one-on-one interviews, but are there any questions quickly for now? Yeah.
What is the next step for Congress given this executive order?
She asked, do you want me? I can answer in English and in Spanish. So I and other members of Congress have filed legislation. You can, from many of the members who are standing here, that would actually address these issues. There are bills to be able to grant normalized status to so many of the families that have been here for years or even for decades. We have proposals on the table to make it so that folks can apply to come here for safety and not have to go through the cartels or criminal organizations, that they can come here in a legal fashion. We will continue to support the president doing some of that work on his own. That's what actually works. And today, I've announced that I am drafting legislation to address the root causes of what is causing record numbers of people to come here in the first place. If there is such a concern about the number of folks that we have coming, we should ask ourselves why. And some of this is rooted in our completely needless sanctions in places like Venezuela, our embargo against Cuba. We see large numbers of people coming from countries where U.S. policy is actually contributing to instability in those countries. So let's first take a look at that rather than going towards Trump-like policies. Any other questions? Thank you, guys.